Okay, let's see. Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm joined here with my friend Henri. She's a Florida mom, and she is gonna be chatting a little bit about homeschooling. We're super excited to learn everything we can from you. I know there's a lot of the Afrikaners that are interested in homeschooling. Maybe they haven't homeschooled in South Africa, or maybe they did, but they want to transition over, when they come here. So. Could you, give us a little bit of background, like how did you get into homeschooling? Were you homeschooled or were you not homeschooled? Maybe chat a little bit about that.
So we came to the United States in 1999, and at the time we had just come out of a hybrid school. So we kind of had an idea. I think if I remember correctly, my mom had brought most of the books with us so that we had some sort of education while we were maybe transitioning into a school here because we really didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, I think, as you know.
I can
So
imagine that was probably a little bit challenging. Yes.
yes, yes. So I practically did most of my homeschooling on my own because at the time I was very involved in rhythmic gymnastics, and I was training in the mornings and in the evenings, and there really just wasn't much schooling because I had a set goal that I wanted. And in order to do that, I needed 8 hours of practice. So
Wow, that's a lot of time. Yeah.
yeah, so for me, homeschooling was good in that aspect because I could fit it in when I could have the time to do my work. So most of homeschooling for me through middle school was basically just me on my own doing it.
I
Um,
got you.
yes. And so when I was done with gymnastics, sadly, I went ahead and enrolled in a public high school, which I did 11th and 12th grade here. So that's like matric, 12th is matric. And so the experience for me to transition, I should say, wasn't difficult. But I am that kid, you know, we don't always have that kind of personality, that type, to transition like that. So, with that to say, I will say I was that kid that just could transition pretty easily.
Right. I think it's
Um,
kind of like A plus or A type personality where you're super internally motivated to do things, which helps a lot
yes,
with that type of thing. So, okay, that's great. And so for your kids, I know you mentioned that you're also pursuing the hybrid system for them, which is they have a little bit of classroom time, they get to spend some time with friends and socialize and all of that. What made you pick that route for them, as opposed to, public school, private school? What was the motivation behind that for your kids, I guess?
sure. So I have a long answer and I have a short answer. So do we have time for the long
Yeah,
answer?
I've got time. What I mean, it
Um,
all depends on you, so I'm
yes.
here. I can listen to whatever you want to say. And
Okay.
people are very
So
interested in that stuff, so that's cool.
okay, so the long answer to this question would be to start from the beginning. And originally, we wanted our children to go to a private school when we first started, and so I had entered my son into what they call here kindergarten, which is, I'm not sure what they call it now in South Africa. It's like
Grade one, I think. I think it's first
right
grade, no?
right before first grade. So it's
Okay, so that's when they are. So my daughter next year will be pre-K, and that she'll be four then.
and so when he was five, he would
Five.
go
Okay.
into K,
Okay.
right?
So
So
kindergarten is grade or 5 years old, and then first grade is six.
correct.
Okay.
So we had enrolled him into kindergarten at a private school here. We really just thought it would be the best fit for him. Of course, we didn't know at the time how it would affect him, but that's the decision we made. So we did enter him, and I had started noticing that halfway through the year, he was crying in the morning, just saying, Mommy, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to school. And so that was difficult for me as a parent because kindergarten and specifically for me should, in my opinion, be about learning like love to learn.
Absolutely. I agree
And
with you.
so it didn't seem like he was loving to learn
Right, right.
in kindergarten. And, I don't want to bash the teacher in this sense or in any way. I just didn't think it was a fit for him.
I
And
agree. Yeah, I
yeah,
think it happens a lot. I went through the same thing with a preschool here. And really on paper, there was nothing wrong with it, but she was the same way. She cried. She didn't really want to go. I noticed that, they would send updates throughout the day. I kept getting less and less updates. So I decided to take her out of that preschool, and then I enrolled her in a different school that is significantly more money. But she's not having bad days there. So it's very important. I think people need to realize that you need to be very vigilant in the US when you send your kids to really any school. It doesn't matter if it's a public school or a private school or whatever. You really need to pay attention to what's going on and how they perceive what's going on too. Like your son, you said, wasn't really enjoying the learning experience there.
sure. Yes. And so it would have been easier for me to just transition him into another school, which there's plenty of schools here, great schools too, So, but at that time, the Lord brought somebody into my life that was kind of letting me know, hey, we homeschool and this is how it works. If this is ever an option for you guys, don't feel that you don't know anything and then just don't want to do it for that reason. If you have any questions, please come to me, ask me. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And, I just thought, why not? Why not pursue it? And we had talked about it as a family, and together we decided to proceed and see how it would work. Of course, I will tell this to any homeschool parent. And in fact, I would tell this to any parent in general. You just don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. Isn't that the
So
truth? I feel like that's, with parenting in general, it's just like everything is kind of you maybe when you have multiple kids, so this is my first child and I'm having another one soon, but it's just like the unknown seems like so big,
it is.
you
It
know?
is. And I want to set everybody like at ease. We all are parents and we make the best decisions for our children, but you're their parents and you will make the best decision for your child.
Absolutely. I
So,
agree with that. Yeah,
yes.
100%.
So we went ahead and tried it. And my youngest at the time was 3. And she had recommended maybe starting a book on teaching him how to read because he was just very interested in
Mhm.
anything I was kind of doing with my older son. So um, he learned how to read at 3, and just it was just a fun book. It wasn't like a regimen.
Right, right.
Sit
Yes.
down, A says
Yeah.
ah. It wasn't anything like that. It was
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely something to be said for children with also different personalities. And, some people just don't do well with that. I have vivid memories of, I guess primary school where you're like, 6 times 7, and you're like getting drilled and stuff. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I think some people just don't really respond so well to that. Doesn't mean they don't know how to learn. It's just they learn differently. And I think, that's, something to
that
consider.
is what homeschooling is. That is,
Definitely.
you just summed it up because he was able to read. Once he was able to read, he was able to do most of the work with us. So basically, my youngest and my oldest was doing the same work.
That's amazing. That's
And
amazing.
I was just so grateful because I didn't know how to
Yeah,
teach.
that was one of my biggest questions. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know how to really. I mean, I've done tutoring and stuff, but like
sure.
it seems like the lower grades would be kind of tough for me to do that, like reading and writing stuff like that. I'm
Well,
like, I don't really know.
I'll tell you this. In a school system, we are leaving our children there for a vast amount of hours.
Hmm.
And to say that homeschooling requires that vast amount of hours is not true. So, for instance, like I could work with one child for 2 hours and then work with another for 2 hours. Or I can give an activity for one child that they can do independently while I'm working with another. Uh,
Right, right.
so there really, it's very doable.
I think
In
so. I
that
mean, even if you
sense.
think of like in a public school setting, the amount of like dead time that there is, that you really aren't like
Sure,
learning 100% of the time
sure.
anyway. So
Yeah.
I think it's all about time management. Like you said, you could
Yes.
totally do it with two kids, no worries. And in terms of like I just wanted you to talk a little bit about what curriculum you guys use, what's
Sure.
available to parents. They will want to know stuff like this, and then just kind of link that to what is required by the state. I know you're in the state of Florida. I'm sure there's other requirements for other state, but the basics, like what do kids have to, what milestones do they need to achieve, I suppose.
Sure. Okay. So, they're in homeschooling in general, they're at this point in the state of Florida, they only require for you to have a signed sheet of an evaluation that has been done on your child.
Mm, mm.
The evaluation is basically an evaluator that looks over some of the work that you've done with your child for the year, and they might ask them some questions. What have you learned this year? And I'm being very general, but it's not nothing to be concerned
Mm.
about, but they are required to find out if your child is learning anything. Have
Okay.
your child learned something this year? There's no set of
Yeah.
requirements to say,
Right.
have your child check this box? Have your child check that
Got you.
box?
Got you.
It's the evaluator's responsibility to say, listen, I have evaluated this child. I looked through their work and they're good. They're learning.
Mhm, mhm.
They're gaining knowledge, right?
Right.
They're
Right.
on track. That is the only requirement as a
Okay.
school student.
I think
Now,
people will be very happy to hear that because I've heard that there are like pretty strict requirements in South Africa now with this Bella Act that came in, especially pertaining to homeschooling, where the parents are essentially, I mean, it's forcing them basically almost to match what's going on in the school curriculums, which
yeah,
people not
that's
necessarily want to do. Like we talked about different
sure,
styles of learning,
sure.
different learning philosophies like Montessori or whatever,
Yes,
which you would not be able to really pursue. I think
sure.
it's incredibly restrictive law, but I know Florida is very open, and you're able to, you know,
Yes,
do you.
Florida at this
So
time is
yeah,
still protecting the rights of the parent to be
right.
able to teach their child the way that they feel
Mhm.
is a good way to teach their child. They have not put in those restrictions. Besides that, it is the responsibility of the parent to decide, hey, you know what? There are year-end testing. I would like my child to test this year, and I want them to
Mhm.
get the experience of what a test is and how it works and the pressure of testing. And those tests are available. Of course, they cost money, but
Right.
not in a significant amount. But those tests are available, and even if you take that test with your child, it is not a requirement to submit it to the state.
Right,
It's
right. So you
it's
don't even
for
have
your
to. Yeah,
knowledge. It's for your knowledge.
got
And
you.
and I'll tell you, that's just one example of a test. There's another test where the evaluator can literally sit across from your child and test them. And they'll
Mm,
know. their comprehension is at this level, their reading is at this level, and it's very, it's not test based,
Mm, mm,
so to
mm.
speak. So there
Right.
are so many options to, if you really are concerned about maybe wondering, where is my child right now?
Yeah.
Which I will tell you, I have done many times.
Oh yeah, yeah, I think so. Look, I would say this from a perspective of some I've done many things in my life, but I've subbed at high schools as well and middle schools. And I can tell you that look, for in terms of public schools, there's obviously big variety.
Sure.
Man, there's some of them that are there's not much going on there, man. Like I don't know what they're learning, how long it takes them to learn this. I feel like I was had the same
Yeah,
exercise sheet for like 3 weeks
sure,
in my head,
sure.
and I'm like, what is going on here? So yeah,
Yes,
you're gonna feel that, but it's actually good because that puts a little bit of internal
it
pressure on you,
does. It
and you're gonna make sure
does.
that your kid is
Yeah.
is
If
on track.
you are concerned, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I felt like that, just
Yes.
having the experience there. Can you maybe tell or, just share a little bit about like some extracurricular activities maybe that your kids are involved in? I think a lot of Afrikaners may not realize this, but even if your kid is in public school,
Mhm.
most of these are private clubs. Am I correct? Like if you want to do like,
Sure,
for instance, swimming, um,
sure.
or
Yes,
gymnastics,
yes,
stuff like that, right? So you
yes,
have to actually go out and look for those opportunities for your kids, even if they're
yes,
in public school, right?
yes. And I'm sorry, did you still want to talk about the curriculum that, because I know you had asked this
Oh yeah, sure,
earlier.
sure. No, sorry. If you wanted to share more about that, totally go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah,
I was just gonna throw it out there. I wanted
yeah.
to also just say to everyone that picking a curriculum is feels like you're just swimming and trying to gasp for air. Like you really don't know always know what is right. But I will tell you this, there's always going to be a bad opinion and a good opinion about every curriculum.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I have found in the homeschool world, people are very much on one side or the other. So,
Yeah.
and they're very passionate about that, and that's great. But really, for us, we loved the good and the beautiful, and I would recommend that for the younger kids, in kindergarten through like sixth grade, which is
Okay.
our elementary school
Yeah.
here. I would recommend that. And the reason why is because it's affordable, number one. Some of their things is literally free to download. As long as you
Mhm.
have a printer, you can
Good to
download their
go.
curriculum for free. Um,
Perfect.
and then the other great thing about them is their language arts, their geography, their art, their writing. It's all in one book. So
Perfect.
you don't need to purchase
Thousands of
different,
textbooks. Yeah.
you don't. And they encompass everything together. They bring it
Mm.
all together, right? Like let's say we learned about Belgium this week. You know, they'll teach your child about Belgium, they'll have them write a piece about Belgium and we'll bake cookies, Belgium cookies, like
Yeah, that's awesome.
this this is amazing, right?
Yeah,
So
perfect.
I have really enjoyed that curriculum. In fact, we didn't find that curriculum till much later, and
Okay,
I've really kind of wished we had found it
earlier.
more. Yeah.
Right. So you're saying this is better for maybe the lower grades. What
Yes.
about you? You said you had a son that's in high school now, or
My oldest is
was
going into ninth grade. Yes.
okay, okay. And
Yes.
and for him, is he on the same curriculum still, or has he transitioned to something else?
So last year for middle school, see, here in America, we have like elementary, then we have middle, then we have high school.
Yep, yep.
So for middle, we started joining co-ops, and then that kind of leads us into another conversation. But um, co-ops are available. Some co-ops you can just be a part of. You pay a yearly fee. You enjoy all of what they offer, in the fact that they get together at parks. They invite you to the zoo.
Mm,
You
mm.
have to pay for your own zoo pass, but
Right.
it might be discounted because you come with the group,
I
right?
got you. I got you.
But they open up the possibility for the socialization of being together. And then there's other co-ops that's like that, but also offer classes that you can pay for a la carte.
Okay.
You also have co-ops that you have to teach a class. So there's plenty of options in the co-op category. And so we in the beginning did not do any co-ops. But
Okay.
for middle school, I had seen the need for my children to kind of want to grow a little bit in maybe
Yeah.
relationships, like friendships with kids,
Right.
and so and that's necessary. That is that
Absolutely.
age. They need that. But I also had the privilege to steer them with people that are like-minded, if I may say so, you know. But in any case, they made really good friends at these co-ops. We in fact joined a co-op where I did teach a
Mm,
class.
mm.
In the beginning, I was not okay with that, but then as I
Yeah.
started understanding how it works, and it's not in fact so difficult,
Hmm.
I was a little bit more comfortable with it. So we did do 2 years of co-op like that where I was teaching, and then they were participating in those classes. And then while we were in those co-ops, we used the curriculums that they recommended because they
Got you. Okay.
wanted them to follow with those curriculums. So
Excellent.
yes, which I should add that one of the best writing curriculums is IEW. I would,
IEW. Okay.
yes.
I think I'll try and link all of this in the YouTube video for people to check out.
Yes,
And whichever other ones you can think of, you don't have to mention them now, but I'll make
sure.
a little list in there and people can go do a little bit of digging and see what,
Okay.
maybe tickles their
Yep.
fancy for that
Yep.
too.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So
good
then
place to start.
yeah, so in middle school, we decided, okay, we were told of this amazing fine arts program. My one son is extremely musical
Hmm.
inclined. He absolutely loves singing and acting and musical theater and playing the piano. And so we kind of joined that group as an extracurricular activity for him, and through that had found out about their academy, which
Okay.
was the hybrid school.
Right, right. Yes, I
Yes.
know you wanted really to talk about that too. So yes, yeah, enlighten us
So
on that.
there is the hybrid. Yes, the hybrid option is schools that offer you to come once to twice a week.
Okay.
They offer everything usually except math. Uh, but sometimes they actually include it. It just depends which school you go to. Ours in particular didn't, and they have their curriculums that they want to use. So we just have to purchase the book list that they require, and then we just chose our own math, for instance. So in middle
Hybrid,
school,
yeah. It sounds
yeah,
like hybrid would kind of be something like a college setting almost, where you're like,
very
okay,
much.
there's most of the things I do at home. There's one or two classes I attend.
Yeah,
They got a book list and curriculum, so you follow that. Okay,
yes.
that's cool. I mean, I think especially for older children, uh,
Mhm.
that could be a really good option. Like you said as well, the co-ops is kind of the same, where you have that connection with other children, but maybe even like more of a classroom setting. Kind of get used to that, especially
Yes,
transitioning to college, university, etc.
correct. So what it's just teaching our children is how to work independently, right? The whole point is to teach our children to think for themselves. That's what
Yes.
we're trying to do, right? So so this is what we decided to do. At this point, we had started Mr. D Math, which is an online math course, but I must speak only highly of this course. It was again affordable, and my kids didn't have me looming over them constantly and telling them how to do things because we're middle school.
Yeah. No, I can imagine that's good. So, with
Um,
that, do they have like are there like online tutors or is it more like video-based learning? How does that work for those math courses?
Right. So they offer both options. They have
Okay.
self-paced option and then they have like a year option where you're in a classroom with other kids, but it's all online. So
I
if you
got
do self-paced, you'll be on video course, right? You'll watch his video, you'll do the lesson, practice it, and then actually he'll hand you the answers to check your work. And
nice.
then you put in the grade, and then every day you have a small 5 question quiz on what you
Mm.
learned for that day, which is perfect for them.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's a good way to do math class. You kind of want to do a few quizzes to check your knowledge. It's more you can say like social studies and all of that. You really don't need that much testing, but for math, it's kind of like one of those where you need that
it's a
repetition a
spiral.
little bit.
Yep. Yeah. And then they have spiral review at the end of each chapter. And then, they just kind of continue as they go. This particular self-pace is what we did, but they also offered tutoring from 12 to 2, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, where if
Mm.
you're stuck on a question, they ask your child to write it on a notepad and then check in with them on Tuesday, Thursday and say, hey, I'm such and such, and I had a question on this. Could you help me more? And so those people would be able to help them
Mm, mm.
through, and there's other kids on
Right.
online with them, but she's able to help them through the problem if they had any questions.
I think sometimes even that would be more help than a lot of kids get in public schools, to be honest with you. You know, it's sometimes it's kind of difficult to corner a teacher and
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
questions. So that's amazing. I think I like that hybrid idea as well. I'm also thinking of ideas for my own for my own
yes,
kids, you
yeah.
know. So
Listen, again, we learned as we went. Um, I'm really truly blessed that I was able to like really find this for us as a family. And it was kind of just, I don't want to call it stumbled upon, but I just really feel like the Lord put it in our on our path to say, this is the direction to go, right?
yeah, and absolutely. I think you really need to make those decisions and in a faith capacity with your family. I think that's the best way to go. What works for your lifestyle, and for your kids, like you said before, your son just wasn't really thriving at even at that private school, and you'd think, wow, private school, this is going to be great, but that's not necessarily the case for
Yes.
all situations. So it's a very personal decision and people really need to sit down and look at all the options. That's why I'm trying to give everyone some options. So,
Yes, yes.
you know,
So, yeah, so regarding extracurricular activities, I do think that the public school system offers it in a very short capacity of time. Like they'll have 5 weeks of soccer that they offer, or you go to tryouts and you try it, and then if you make the team, you play a couple of other schools in the area and go from there. But for the most part, most things will be outside of school. If you're looking for something that your child is can
interested
grow
in,
in,
yeah.
right? If they really want to pursue something, my youngest plays club soccer. He absolutely loves it. My
Mm,
other one did also, but as time went on, realized, hey, I would rather be in music and pursue that. And so
right.
again, this is things that we've pursued outside of schooling, but there's a vast amount of options. And a lot of the co-ops offer their own, sports.
Teams and yeah.
Yes. So it really has so many options for you.
Absolutely. Really the reason why I brought this up is I know that obviously everybody's working towards something. So after you finish your high school, most likely you want to go to college, university, etc. And I know that colleges look at these things, for applications. Did you participate in any extracurricular activities? And mind you, if you were really good, you may be able to get a scholarship, depending on, how intensely you pursued that sport. So, but yeah, just letting people know that in the States, typically, like you said, there are programs in school for extracurriculars, but it's not as involved, I guess, as people may re think. I know, in schools in South Africa, it's like
It's
there's
very
there's
different.
sports all the time, right?
Absolutely not the same. 100% not the same as South African sports. I was very much involved in South Africa in
Yeah,
all of it.
yeah, me too. I was like doing track and
I
hockey,
mean,
field
the cheer
hockey.
teams, the
Yeah,
everything. I mean, we were all in. Not,
yeah.
not here. Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I would say I have some friends who have children in private schools, and those private schools do have, a little bit more robust, extracurriculars available, but still they are part of clubs like Little League Baseball and all of
Yes.
that stuff too. So that's something that people would have to kind of focus on for their kids. But in terms of kind of like packaging everything together, getting your kid ready, to send them off to college is so people have questions about the SAT, right? So that's kind of like the exam everybody takes. Am I correct in saying that?
If you're planning to go to a college, as far as I know, it's still this way that you need to do, yes, the SATs. And again, this is maybe a question we could
We
follow
could,
up
yes,
with the other person that knows a little
yes,
bit more about homeschooling in
yeah,
the
yeah.
high school area. Um, but yes, and there are classes actually to teach you how to take SATs because
Yeah, as far as I understood it, it's a lot of people do that. Even if they go to public schools, they pay for to take a
yes,
course to take the
yes,
SAT, in preparation because it's a for people who don't know, it's a standardized exam. And many colleges use that. There's another test called the ACT, which I
correct.
think is a little bit more expensive to take.
Yes, and
Um,
SATs are more looked at when you're going to universities.
okay, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And what would be the benefit of taking the ACT? Do people take both or they
I
just
mean, again, it's just to say, look at my academics, look at where I'm at. Actually, they start taking the ACT, I think, in middle school.
mm.
So, and again, we didn't do that test. We're doing the year end testing right now. I started very late with my kids regarding the testing. I didn't feel like it was a necessity at the
Yeah,
time. Emotionally, they were just not ready. Maybe my
I agree.
youngest would have been, but there was no need to force it to sit
No.
there for 3 hours for 2 days to
Yeah.
test.
No, no,
I don't.
it's brutal. I do not like I don't like standardized tests, and I've taken like the MCAT too, and that's like super hard. It's not
All of
necessarily
that.
very
All of
hard. It's
that.
just you have to focus for such a long time.
Correct.
It's like almost 6 hour test.
Correct. Yeah.
But yeah, that's I
Well,
guess
it
we can.
depends what your path is. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want? What does your child want
Mm,
for where they want to be one day? What are they thinking, school wise? Are they thinking college?
mm,
Are they
mm.
not thinking college? Um,
Absolutely. I think a
yeah.
lot of people especially South Africans, they may still think like, you have to get a college degree or and frankly, I think a lot of people have them now. And, if it's just a random degree, sometimes it's not very helpful. I don't know. Maybe you can give your
Yeah.
opinion on that too.
Yeah. I mean, in society, they want to see something.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
a bachelor degree in business, but you're not even doing business, they just want to know that you have a bachelor's.
Yeah.
Um, it sets you above somebody else,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I will say this, there are so many trade jobs that can be
Mm,
done without
yeah.
college. So
Yeah.
many,
And
absolutely.
and super high paying, by the way.
So, I mean, a plumber,
Yeah,
for instance, just to give one example, makes so much money.
they do. They do.
And
I
that's a
actually
trade.
had yeah.
You,
No,
you
I
really
know.
don't have to go to college for that.
No, no, you don't. You don't. And there's so,
So,
and especially in the United States, I'll say this to people, is that there are incredible amount of trades available that you can
yes,
go into, and you can make a
100%.
decent living. You don't need to go to college. So I wouldn't force, I mean, this is just personal advice. I wouldn't force your children if they don't want to go to college. Don't force them. It's a lot of money here, first of all, like a
Yes,
ton of money.
yes.
So I would
Well,
just,
and the
yeah,
way I see it is I've always told my kids, I hope that you're ready to do dual enrollment at like 10th, 11th grade to try a class
yeah,
at our community college. Community offers free
yes,
classes as
yes.
long as you're in high school.
Could you maybe elaborate on that? Because I think people would be interested in know about this. So explain a little bit about dual enrollment. What type of community college classes you could be taking while you are in high school or, doing that.
Yes. And again, this might be a question that's more deeper into my friend
Yeah.
that might be able to answer.
Yeah, leave
But I will say this. You could end like at least get your associate by the
it.
time you graduated. So
I
whatever
think a lot of people do
those
that.
classes are, your core classes, they can all be taken care of in high school while you're in high school, and they're completely free because you're dual enrolling, meaning you're in high school and you're in college. So if it's a community college, they will pay for those classes.
Right. And this is a way to save money, by the way. You can
Yes,
take care of a lot of these they call them gen ed classes when you go to
yes,
college.
yes,
These are like it's a little bit random. They're kind of just extensions of high school. There's like reading classes, there's,
correct.
stuff like that. If you take care of that at the community college, you're saving to get your associates is 2 years.
Yes,
So then you only have to pay for 2 more years of
correct.
college. And
Right.
so you're saving a ton of money and you can really
Yes,
think about like really what is it that I really want to do? Do I want to keep going? Do I
correct.
want to become an accountant or whatever? It's a good way to kind of do that in that time.
It 100% is. And I am still learning about what it entails for the Bright Future Scholarship.
Yes.
But for homeschooling, that is definitely an option. So just keep that in mind. But with all that to say, I will say this. If your child isn't ready for that dual enrollment, I wouldn't push that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There
the
are other
child
things
really
kids
does need
can
to
do.
be ready for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I know kids that get summer jobs from
Yes.
16 or,
Yes.
that's also a valuable learning tool. You learn how to deal
Yes.
with people. It's something you can put on your
Absolutely.
resume.
Yes. Yes.
There's so many options.
Volunteering. Yes.
Volunteering.
All of those are great options. 100%. Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I think you can really build yourself a nice a little curriculum, with your homeschooling and all of that. I think you can absolutely match what any child can get in a public school or private school setting.
Yes.
Or better. I mean, just
Yeah.
what works for you.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. My son that's going into ninth grade, he has a classmate that's going to start college courses in ninth
Mm,
grade.
no problem.
Is my son ready for it? No, but I love him.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
he's not ready, right? So, and that's okay. That's
That's
totally
fine.
fine. But she is ready, and she's ready to start in ninth grade. So she'll be ready to go with that. And again, you don't have to start in ninth grade. You can start later. You have 2 years. If you do 11th and 12th in
Mm-hmm.
community college, there's your 2 years for
Yeah,
associate.
absolutely.
So, yeah, but yes, this is an amazing opportunity that we get to have as well as high school students in a normal public school. Um, so
Absolutely. I think that there's just so many options, and people should chill about it, really. I've had people like panicking, asking all these questions, and I'm like, you know what? It's the in the US, there's just so many options, so you kind of have to
there
work
is.
through that. But
Yes.
nothing really to stress about. It's all
No,
good.
it's not, but if you're a type of person like I am, which is an A type,
Yeah. Yeah.
then the more options could be harder for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that too. It can kind of drive me insane sometimes. So,
Yes. So I
um,
did have, yes, and I did have guidance, like I said, from my friend that originally had suggested us doing homeschooling as an option. And so I'm very grateful for that because even today we sit together and I'm
mhm.
asking questions. Hey, where are we here? And I think that is important. I think it's important to have community when you're homeschooled.
Yeah, I think
Because
so. Just not to get isolated. And
absolutely.
if you feel like you're struggling, with a
Yes.
curriculum or whatever it is, there are people that are willing to help. And I'm sure that I think if we ask your friend if, maybe we
Yes.
can email for, just questions about, homeschooling, perhaps she would be able to answer
Yes.
some of these more deeper questions too. So that would
Yes.
be good.
Yes. And we're very open. I'm very open to helping with that. Yes, you want a community and you'll find it because homeschooling moms are amazing. They do like to help each other. They do feel like this is truly what is best for schooling. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I will just let you give some closing remarks, whatever you want to say, to our community about homeschooling, or just, even if you want to just say something about moving to the US in general, because you've gone through
Sure.
this, and I think a lot of people, it's a big stress. It was for me too in the beginning. I felt like a little bit isolated. I felt like I was like an infant just learning something from, starting all over and whatever. Um,
Yeah.
so the one particular question I want to ask you is there so do you have a legal requirement? Okay, we're in Florida to let the school board know that you're doing homeschooling. Is there like forums, stuff like that? Should we link that maybe for people to be able to kind of have a little peek at that, to let them know you're going to go, okay, we're not enrolling them in a public school.
Yes, you do have to write a letter of intent. The
Okay.
letter of intent is a very basic, just, hey, this is my intent to start a homeschool program.
Okay.
And then you would list your child's name and their birth year and
Mm.
their birthday. Um, and that's it. And then they will respond, the county will respond with, thank you, we've received this, and you are now an active homeschool. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of like, it seems like it's a pretty
It's
straightforward
very
process.
simple. Yes, very simple. And I have the email for that if you need
Okay.
it, if anybody does need it. And then what will happen at the end of the year, you'll have your evaluation, like I had mentioned earlier. You'll have it, you'll sign it, she'll give it to you, and then you just basically take a picture of it, scan it
Yeah.
in, and you will send it to them within a certain period of time, and they will respond back and say, thank you, we've received it. Have a great
That's it.
year. Yeah,
Straightforward. I like that.
very much.
Yeah.
Yes, that part is the easiest thing about the homeschooling. And I'm so grateful that we still have that we don't
Yeah.
have to have check, 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 you know?
That would drive me crazy. I mean, that would really deter me from pursuing that because it would feel like I'm doing yeah, exorbitant amounts of work, to
Yes,
keep them going like that. So, yeah, I like it. The state of Florida is very open, it's very free. You like we talked about, you can pick your curriculum, you can do the evaluations as you wish. And registration is pretty easy. We'll link all of that. We'll link the type of
yes,
curriculums. And we'll continue the discussion with your friend to talk more about bridging the gap between your senior year and college, and what are
yes.
some things people maybe want to focus on. Because I'm sure there's people that were like, want to really shoot for the stars and go for like, super fancy colleges or whatever. So we'll try and like cater to everybody and have that ready for them. But uh
Sign
I,
me up.
yeah, 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 we all want to learn. So I yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Um, but yeah, no, I'll let you, just give us some closing remarks, something maybe you want to share with our community, and then we'll sign off. And I really appreciate you talking to me today. This was awesome. I've learned so much. So this is
Oh,
great.
I'm grateful to have this opportunity to help somebody,
Yeah.
hopefully, you know. One thing I just wanted to also mention, and we can talk about this more, but Florida offers a tax scholarship for your
Yes, this is
child.
important. Yep.
Um, it is 4 or 5 different categories of scholarships depending on what you qualify for as your
Okay.
child. Um, both of my children are on these scholarships, and
Okay.
the state gives you an allowable amount every year to pay for anything regarding their school. So their hybrid is paid for, their books are paid for, their sports lessons are paid for,
Sure. Yep.
all of these things literally are paid for.
So
So,
the
but
scholarship,
I will say this, I'm not 100% sure clear on the requirements in
yeah,
regards to being a permanent
yeah,
resident
yeah.
and or being, a citizen of the United States. So
Yeah, so
we can do a little bit more
yeah.
research on this.
Let's do that. Let's do that. My personal understanding of most of these things, because I took out student loans for my college and university, is the minimum requirement. Actually, you can, as a legal refugee, you can still get FAFSA, so that's the federal student aid from the government. Now, in terms of now, these are scholarships for the state, so there may be different requirements, but typically at minimum it would be like a green card. And so
Yeah.
most of our community would qualify for that within a year of getting here. So 12
So
months is
that's an amazing, like I would agree with you. And if
yeah,
I had to guess, at least the green card.
yeah,
But really the only proof they have asked me was not even that. I just had to show a Florida driver's
yeah,
license.
yeah. So
And
residency,
and
yeah,
I had to show that an address or proof of address that I live in Florida.
right.
So for that reason, I will say that's all I had to submit, of course, to be able to be eligible to apply for my children for those scholarships.
And
So
so you
again,
go ahead.
this is a great option, and maybe not right away, but in the future for somebody that would like to have just a little extra to help with the kids funding. If of course everything costs money.
Of
you know
course, yeah.
and
Nothing is free in the US. Yeah,
no,
that's true.
nothing is free. But you know what? I will say I'm so grateful because there's so many opportunities to take a hold of. So,
Mhm.
yes. And so then I will tell you this about being a homeschool mom, and I'll say this last thing, but um, the one thing that I think I struggled with the most as a parent, a homeschool parent, is the fact that the children are home all day.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the big reasons I do preschool with my child, because I could do a nanny or whatever, but it does feel like you know, like for instance, now I'm talking to you, I'm
Yes,
doing the stuff I need to be doing. It's tough, yeah, when your
yes,
kids are home all the time.
yes.
Something else, like, okay, this is a dumb question. I have this question because, like I said, I've never done in the US, you know, I did college and whatnot. So if you send your kids to public school, they usually get out of school what time? Like 3? It's like 3
At
p.m.
2:30, actually,
So
for
what happens?
elementary.
Okay.
And for middle school, for some reason, they go in at 9:30 and get out at 4:30. And then back at high school, they go back in at 7:30 or 8 and then get back out at 3. So I don't
Yeah. It's
I
so
don't know the
wild to
reasoning
me.
about this, but
It's wild to me, but I've always thought like what do parents do if they're working like a 9 to 5? Like how do they manage that whole
there
situation?
is
Because they get home.
aftercare programs that pick the children up from school and then
Okay.
they'll take them. For instance, they have martial arts, they have tennis, they have gymnastics.
Mm,
So a little
mm.
bus will come and pick up your
Yeah.
child, and then take them to aftercare. But I will tell you, for the most part, those programs are extremely expensive and they are definitely not a part of public school. So,
Right. So that's something you'd have to pay for. So
correct.
guys, if you have anyone that can like maybe pick up your kids from school and look after them for a little bit, that would
Yeah,
be possibly more ideal
that would
financially for
definitely
you.
be more ideal.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
so different.
honestly don't know if the extra hours at work will pay you more than,
No.
I mean, it
Yeah.
somehow you might just need to do part-time. It might
Yeah.
work out better. So
Yeah,
I
I think a lot of people end up working part-time when their kids are young. I think if your
yeah.
kids are in high school, you could
And
probably
again,
trust them to go home and, you know, not burn
yes,
down the place. But
100%.
yeah.
I think too that when I'm saying what I struggled with, I am referring to the younger years. I am
Yeah.
referring to them constantly being around you and constantly,
Mhm.
and as the kids are growing, they get familiar with the teaching and all that. And so sometimes, I have children now that are about to be 13 and 14. So they no longer want me to teach them. So
Right.
you hit that age and then what now?
Yeah.
You know?
Now they've shunned you, you know. It's like, no, I don't want mom anymore.
So
I'm done.
yes.
Yeah.
So this is why we have chosen hybrid, because I clearly saw that even if I had the tools to teach my children what they need to know,
Mhm.
they are not looking to take it positively from the person that's been teaching them for X
No.
amount of years.
No, look, I think the mom always takes the brunt of the matter. You know,
Yes.
I see that with my daughter too. It's like she gives me hell all day, and then like, you know, her grandparents walk in the door and she's so friendly and
Yeah.
she's doing everything they're asking. I'm like, what happened to you? Like, I don't understand, you know? So it's
Yes.
interesting how they are, but
But I will say
yeah.
my mentor or person that was so helpful in all this, I just spoke to her yesterday actually, and she had said to me, she said, Henri, at 14, it will become miserable and they'll come back at 20.
Yeah, I think they do.
So
Yeah, I felt like, look, man, if I think of like what I put my poor parents through, then I'm like, maybe this is kind of justice for that, you know? So
what
it's
I
what
agree.
it is.
100% agree with you. I am not oblivious to the fact that we were all 14,
Yeah,
15, 16, 17, 18.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yes, so it is tougher when you first start.
Mm, mm.
And the other challenge for me was always feeling like, am I doing enough?
Right. Like you
Um,
mentioned before, like, am I on track? Yeah, exactly.
yes, that was, and is to this day, I would say a question that we have. Am I doing enough? Is my children on track? Are we in the right direction? And I will tell you, it is so good to have that question always in your mind, because that is the drive
Yeah.
that will get you to make sure my kids are doing. They're progressing and they're doing what they're supposed to do. So
Right, right.
hybrid has been good for us because it gives me a little bit of security. Hey, there's other teachers teaching them, and if there was really an
Yeah,
issue here, then they would approach and say,
right.
let's talk, you know.
Yeah, maybe they're falling behind here or there. They would pick up on that stuff and you'd
Yeah.
be able to address it because there's a little bit of external feedback for what you're doing. That's good to know. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
so that would be my only thing. But I will say the good thing about homeschooling is that I am, like I said, I am the best advocate and parent for my children.
Right, right.
And I will know what's best for them at all times. And I'm able to do that for them as they're learning and growing and life skills. I mean, in our home during the summer, we put a list of 20 life skills that they will do during the summer. And we
Yes,
learn something new. And
absolutely.
they absolutely love this. So it is important to know that you are the one that gets to teach your kids. You know, you are the main influence in their life. And yeah, I'm so sorry, Andrea. I
Yeah, no problem.
have a very important phone call. I just want to
Okay.
check on this. I'm
No,
so
no, no
sorry.
worries. No worries. You're
Yeah.
good. You're good. You can turn off your camera if you want. I'll just hang out
I'm
here.
just gonna I'm so sorry about
Oh,
that.
that's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I was gonna say one more thing in terms of you kind of being, the teacher in your child's life. Something that a lot of the Afrikaners are very afraid of, and me as well personally, is, all of the ideology that sometimes gets taught in schools that you don't know of, especially from a Christian background, like how they're being influenced in schools. Just to give you an example, I have a friend. It's actually my husband's business partner, and his kids goes to a very fancy Jewish school. It's a like a private school, but during COVID, their mom was kind of listening into the Zoom meetings and was like, wait a second, like, what are they talking about? So they were talking about like gender ideology. And, this is like like low middle school, talking about gender ideology, pronouns. And then it came out that, her daughter, her son and her daughter went to the same school, had like three friends that have transitioned, in middle school. And, I'm looking at that stuff and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's very scary to me in terms of like, I don't know what's being taught, and it's not necessarily something that I have any control over. So that is one thing that makes me a little bit hesitant about sending my child to a either. Like I said, this was like uh private school too.
Yes, and I'll say this, my heart goes out to that parent first and foremost. Um, it's difficult because the school systems here are run by a certain
Hmm.
board.
Right, they have a board.
And they determine what needs to be in the schools, what doesn't go in the schools. And really, we don't have a say as a parent at all regarding the public school. I do understand that everybody feels that that is what they think is
Yeah,
best
yeah,
for the
yeah.
children. And so there's no judgment.
No,
But I will just say that what was the best choice for us was not that, because
right.
in our home and in our moral standards are very different
Right.
than those moral standards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, if that works, for you and you're more hands off, no judgment to anybody, but there are people
Yes,
that have like legit concerns
yes.
in terms
Yes.
of
If
their,
it's a
yeah,
concern, then yes, I will tell you that your concern is valid, and I will tell you that you're gonna have options such as Christian private school.
yeah,
That'll be option number one. They are expensive.
yeah, yeah.
They're expensive. Now, the scholarship that I mentioned earlier, if you
The
are
vouchers.
eligible for it and are
Yeah.
awarded for that, will pay 90% of that for you.
Yeah. So if I'm getting this correct, the scholarship is not what they described as the Florida voucher system. Because I have friends that make use of this. It doesn't have like there's no cap on like your personal income, but it's like a certain amount you get per semester that you can apply to whichever school you choose to do. And a lot of frankly, a lot of them are saving like a ton of money. If you can imagine like a private school could be up to like, I don't know, it could be something like 16,000 a year,
Correct.
something like that.
Correct. They
So
range anywhere from 11 to 20,000 a year.
yeah, it's
So,
it's wild. And to put that into perspective, you could pay for a semester at a college. I'm talking about like a really, let's call it one of the more upper colleges. You could pay 20 to 25,000 a year for that. So that's almost equivalent. And this is for
correct.
school. So,
Yes,
that's a huge amount of money for most people, I would say.
yes, yes. So, what we can do is just link
Yeah.
the link for, it's called Step Up for Students
All right.
Scholarship. And they offer various amount of scholarships. They offer scholarships for children who have disabilities. They have a scholarship for kids that wants to do a personalized education plan. That specific scholarship is what my youngest is on, and they require that you unhomeschool, you unregister as a homeschool student and become a PEP student, which is the personalized education plan
Mm,
student.
mm.
But you are required to take the standardized test at the end of the year.
Got you.
Now they will allow you to pick which option of testing you want. And they'll give you options. So it's not to say only this one. And a lot of the testing that they are asking is not even what public schools do. It's not even as
I see.
rigorous.
I see.
So if you have a child that's fine in learning and progressing well and retaining well, there's no issues with that. Now, the state will know what your child's grade level is testing, right?
Yeah.
But this is our first year doing that specific scholarship for him. I have submitted my scores. They were slightly different than the grade he's supposed to be in because we just did the test that the hybrid school offered.
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
that it was his first year, it was kind of a trial for us
Got you.
figuring that out. But as far as I know, they don't like take the test and compare it to which grade he's
Mm,
supposed to
mm.
be in. And then if he's not on that grade level, they're like, they won't take the scholarship away.
I
They
got you.
just want to know, did you take a test?
Yeah, right. So it's just kind of like
Oh,
you got to tick a few boxes for that
right.
one.
You just got to tick
Yeah.
your box. Yes. So for PEP, that was in fact what we did this past year. Just because my son he plays club soccer and it is very expensive.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. I've heard
So
of this,
yeah.
a lot of these clubs can get real pricey. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so that was a benefit to us this year. And also the fact that we could pay for the hybrid school.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
in that regard. And again, we can talk more about the scholarship. That's probably a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you know
Um,
what we can do is we can start with the link. We're gonna,
yes,
this is gonna be a lot of information to start off with. If people, I'm sure there's going to be questions coming out of this, and maybe we can talk again, or we'll definitely try and have a Zoom or whatever with your friend, and
Yes.
talk about a little bit of that bridging. But yeah, I think we can leave people with with what we got now, because it's like information overload. But there's a lot to
Sure.
learn. But since you're kind of waiting for this refugee program, hey, look, you can do a lot of research. So
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
yes, absolutely. Look into all of these things. Again, I will say, if you're researching curriculums, just take it with a grain of salt. You know,
Yeah.
look at it, listen to it, and then pick one that you think fits your family. There's probably going to be five options that's good for your family. There's not just
Right,
one specific one,
right.
so you can't really make the wrong choice. All of the curriculums are teaching your child.
Yeah,
I
I think
started with one, then switched the second year, then switched the third, then switched the fourth, and then on the fifth I realized, hey, I like this curriculum. So
yeah,
it regardless of what you choose, your child is learning. So
yeah. And people were kind of, so some of the questions I got were, hey, I'm doing homeschooling now in South Africa, whatever program, if it's Cambridge or I forgot all the ones that are available there. Like, how am I supposed to bridge the gap? But now I'm thinking, because it's Florida, it doesn't really matter. Like, you're going to register your child and
correct.
with your letter of intent to homeschool, you'll just simply pick a curriculum and go from there. I don't think there's really much to say for that, unless you want to go into a public school, which I'm still trying to figure out like how that would work for them.
Yeah, they would just
Yeah,
need credits. They need to bring their credits. They just
yeah,
need to have their grades, what classes they did,
like a
you
transcript basically for
transcript.
that. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. And another thing, and now that we're saying transcripts, there is no transcript for homeschooling
right.
until high school.
So there you go. No
So
problem.
until you're ready for high school next year, I'm also learning about high school. I am
Yeah.
one number one thing was we're gonna start a transcript.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no, that's like you said, it's like you have kids and then it's like a learning curve for everybody. So
sure is.
I know people are feeling overwhelmed. It's like extra overwhelming going to a new country. That's kind of like why I was like, maybe you can share, what your experience was like
Yeah.
and how you adapted because it's a lot of stress. It's just like a lot of new things, so that's a
Yeah,
lot,
I will say my siblings had definitely have a different story if you would ask them this same question.
right?
Um, Mine was a positive experience
Yeah,
because I was so into gymnastics. Like I was just
yeah,
rhythmic. I was in the gym 8 hours a day, and I made one really good friend that I trained with, and we were best friends. And I never had to like really look for friendship. I never
yeah,
had to like
yeah,
fit in
yeah,
because
yeah.
I was in,
Right,
this is what
right.
I was doing.
Hmm.
Um, and so for me, it was a very positive experience. I
Yeah.
loved everything new, but I'm also that type of person.
Yeah, personality type. Yep.
I love to travel. I like to learn new things. I'm open to that surprise factor. So for me, it was okay. I
Yeah.
think the only shock, I think, was the financial shock. I
Yeah.
think
Yep.
there was a big difference from what we had in South Africa and
Right.
trading it in money financial wise.
Yeah. You convert and then you start over. Like that's what we
Yes.
did. And that's I mean, I'm not lying to people. It's tough. Like in the beginning, you really have to grind it out. But then again, there are, like we said, there's opportunities
So
everywhere.
many opportunities.
And I talked to your
Absolutely.
parents about a lot of this stuff about building a business because a lot of people in South Africa kind of come from that background and whatnot.
Sure.
But there, you can do it. It's just you really have to focus and put your
Yes.
head down and work.
Well, yeah. If you have a good, great work ethic, which most South Africans, I feel like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Florida, we know,
yeah,
we know.
exactly.
it's a go-getter getting kind of attitude towards life in general, you know. You just don't, you don't quit. You just work
Yeah,
hard and things pay off. And you know,
absolutely.
I personally don't have a degree at all.
Yeah.
I went into a trade school and did cosmetology. Am I
Yep.
using
Very
it
popular.
today?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Could,
No.
could I use it? Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, you know, and for my children, I'm looking at the same possibilities for them. You
Yeah.
know, one of my children possibly will go to college, has a better,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
plan to go to college.
Inclination for that. Yeah.
Yes, the
Exactly.
other one will probably do more just trade, and he would
Yeah.
do like a mentorship, which would be
Yeah.
amazing for him, you
I
know?
think the other
So,
cultural thing that people should realize about the States, and this is just from my personal experiences, I feel like people are not as I don't know how to say this without sounding weird, but people aren't as focused on like classes of people. Like you could be a plumber and your plumber probably has friends that are freaking doctors. You know what I'm saying? It's like people don't really care here, whereas in South Africa, I
um,
do feel like that vibe is for sure like there. Like,
sure.
hey, did you do this or that? And in America, you can be whatever you want. Okay, you make money, that's your business. Like whatever you do,
That's
that's cool.
it. Yeah, I think that's because the opportunities are so vast and we all
Exactly.
understand that we need each other, you know.
Yeah.
I need an electrician. Uh,
Yeah.
that might not be a lofty title of a
Yeah.
job, but it sure is a necessity of a
Right.
job, you know.
Right.
My father, home
Yeah.
inspections, you know,
Yeah.
it's a necessary job. It's
Mm,
required by the state. It's
exactly.
something that is never going to be out.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. No,
For instance,
absolutely. I
nursing, you
agree.
know? Yeah.
No, I think
So,
people need to relax about that. But people will figure it out. Like you said, Afrikaners, I think they're go-getters, okay? They gonna do what they need to do to get where they need to be. And most people, I would say, thrive here. I wouldn't say that there aren't difficulties because there are,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
for any immigrant.
Yes.
But, in terms of finding a job, doing all that, it's totally possible. And now we're just talking about schooling and putting your kids through
Yeah.
school, which is just another aspect, I guess, too.
Yeah, but I will say this, Andrea. I think that if someone's moving from another country, they want to have some sort of somebody
Yeah,
to fall back on, and you seem to be that person.
I'm
So
trying.
thank you for
Yeah,
doing
no,
this.
thank you for you. I mean, I'm so
Because
appreciative for anyone that's, willing to just have a little chat with me and
yeah,
all of
it's
that. It's
amazing.
great.
Yes, this is so good for anyone that feels maybe I don't think I can do it,
Yeah.
but this is community, right? This is
Yep.
where we can go, hey, send your questions. We'd be happy to help and you
It's
know,
exactly that.
networking and channeling, like these are opportunities. And so
Yep. No, I agree. I mean, and that's really what we're doing. It's kind of like a mission for me, it's like
yes,
spiritual calling, I feel like.
there
So
you go.
And that's what I'm
Yes.
doing. So
That's
Andre, I really
amazing.
appreciate your time. I don't want to keep you too long. We can sign off here soon. I will get with you to just kind of go over those links. I'll put it in the YouTube and people can reference those. And if they have any questions, I'll let them email me first, and then I can share your email or whatever with them. I just don't want to put your email on there because then you'll get like tons of emails. So let me
Sure,
the
sure,
tons of emails first and
sure.
go through it. So
Sure.
that's
Well,
probably a
if
better way
you
to do
think
it.
of any that you think I could answer, I'd be happy
Sure.
to help with that.
Absolutely. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for talking to me today, and really I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yes, and thank you so much.
Thank you. And well, I'll set up the other interview, I guess, with your friend at a later time whenever she's available too.
Yes, I have not, so they're kind of on a cruise, I
Oh, nice.
think, or
Perfect. Yeah.
something about a camp. I'm not sure. So when they get back, then
Yeah.
I'll be able to. kind of talk to her about it and just say, hey, would you be interested in doing this?
Yeah. And you
But
know what?
again, I've spoken to her so many times over questions I had, and she so many times had said, I'm so grateful you coming to me. I
Yeah.
love helping people. So I don't think there will be any.
Yeah. And you know what? You can share like my YouTube videos with her and say, this is what I'm doing. And she can look through it. It's like, it's not, there's nothing political. It's just,
Yes,
we're just chatting about life here.
yes.
And, it's low stress talking. We're just, having a nice chat. So, we'll
Good.
do that and I'll set that up and I'll text you, when I'm ready with your video. But I appreciate it. I'll sign off now and I'll let you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, you're welcome anytime. Andrea, if you have any other questions or just want to have, if you personally have a
Yeah,
question,
for
Henri,
sure. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. My kids, I don't know. Yeah.
Bring them over and drop them off.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I'll do that too, by the way.
yeah, yeah. No, listen, I was, like I said, very grateful for this woman in my life because she invited me over one day and she said, this is what homeschooling is all
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And I walked in her front door and her house was a disaster. And she said, welcome.
Welcome.
And then
Yeah.
I was like,
Okay.
what's happening? This was when my kids were so little.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And she goes, no, this is reality. I want
Yeah.
you to know this because when you have a house and you can't stand it anymore because it's so messy and you don't have the time to clean it right now,
Yeah.
this minute,
Right.
I want you to remember that we are all in
In
this
that.
together.
Yep. That's very important and such good advice that she gave you. I mean, that's like it's amazing.
She just had me over to show me. She didn't have to
She's like,
tell me.
hey, look at my house. See?
Look at this. This is what your house is about to look like. And do
Yeah.
not panic. It's okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's so wonderful. All right. Well, I'm gonna sign off now and I'll send you some text just to go over those links.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Okay.
Andrea. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye.